Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Insurance Town. Man, this one just hits different. This episode, I just got through recording with my man Brenden. It's a good one, and it hits different, and it'll connect with you or resonate with you in some way or another. I promise. Hang on with me. Check this one out. You're going to love it. SmartChoiceAgents.com. Make sure you check it out. Fastest growing agency network, hands down. More than 10,000 agencies across the country trust them. They have more than 11 billion in premium. They don't have any fees, no startup fees, no monthly fees, nothing like that. They don't take a ton of your commission. And in fact, they try to get you higher commissions and lower premium thresholds and all of the good things that you want in an agency partner. Go to smartchoiceagents.com. Canopy Connect. Man, you got to go to usecanopy.com/Heath and check out everything that they are doing. They are an unbelievable resource for you and a tool for you to have in your agency. And you can brand it. You can do whatever you want. It's intake forms. It's a one-click solution to getting the deck pages you need to quote your prospects. It is just a way to make your customers so much easier doing business with you. And they're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's amazing. Usecanopy.com/Heath. Also, ladies and gentlemen, old school marketing. Call Rusty and his friends and his team, and they will crush it for you. I promise you. OLDE schoolmarketing.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to get out of the way quickly because you got to check this conversation out before I lose you. It is amazing. Brenden Corr. Brenden Corr, what's going on, brother?
What's up, Heath? Nice to see you, man. It's been a minute.
It has been a hot minute. And pulling back curtain for those that are listening, like you and I have been trying to get this going for quite a while now. So I'm glad we're finally able to catch up, see each other. I mean, look at that. I could see your beautiful face right here. And for those listening, sorry, you're going to hear us
Good.
catch up, for the first time in a hot minute. So, man, I'm just glad to see you, man. How's your world?
Dude, life is good, man. I'm out here in beautiful Missoula, Montana. It was 4 degrees when I went to the coffee shop this morning, but it's bright blue skies. We got some snow on the ground. Man, life is good, man. I feel very blessed with everything that I've had and am working towards, man. So it's been a whirlwind, man. But I'm pumped to be here and catch up, kind of let you know where I'm at, what kind of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
So I got a
Thanks.
question before we get into any of that. Okay, so I've got a friend of mine from Montana. I think maybe from near where you're at that I work with, and she tells me that she herself she's not a big fan of Yellowstone. And she said a lot of people from Montana aren't fans of the show Yellowstone. I wonder if you're in that same boat and if you could kind of shed some light on and maybe why that is, because there are a lot of people that love some Rip and Beth and Yellowstone and the whole nine. And I'm enthralled with it. My wife and I watch it all the time. But
Yeah.
like, is there a thing there with people from Montana that's like, or Wyoming or whatever? Like people are like, it's not the best because of whatever. Maybe it's telling too much truth or
I mean,
shedding
I
too much light.
I think like anything, it's more just like quit giving away the secrets. Don't
Right?
move here. But
Yeah.
now, but I don't. But like on the other side of that is like I came here only almost 5 years ago, so I'm like I don't really have a whole lot of room to talk. Like I
Yeah.
moved here, but I think that's really it. Is like it certainly fabricates kind of this like cowboy ranch life, but more importantly, they're like get out of our city. Do not come here. We don't
Yeah.
want high rises. We don't need overpasses. Like we don't need all these apartments. I mean, I think we just in Missoula, we just had our like a new airport put in probably like 18 months ago. And like this is a crazy stat. Up until then, it was when it was built, it was the first building in Montana with an escalator. Like that's crazy. An escalator.
Whoa. Yeah.
Now, now we have elevators that go up and down,
Sure.
but like the tallest building here in Missoula is probably 10 stories,
Yeah.
maybe. So I think people are just like, love the show, but like, love it where you live. Don't come here.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I can remember back, it's been I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago when I first interviewed Regan on the show, and we kind of laughed about her being like a local hero because of her high school basketball career or whatever it was. And she was like, I'm gonna have, people come up to me like, oh, you were on the cover of the, magazine or the newspaper or whatever. And she's like, yeah, I'm big time. I'm like, strutting myself all excited. And I say that in jest, but like, it is one of those small town fellas. You like that. And people that are from those kind of areas, they like having. I'm the same way. I live in small town outside of Little Rock, and which is a small town itself. And it's like, there's
Right.
something to be said for that. I can go, and my wife hates this, but I go to the grocery store, and there's a reason why they call me the mayor, but I can go to the grocery store and spend 2 hours just catching up with buddies that I see in the banana aisle or in the cereal aisle. And I was like, hey, let's talk. And how are your kids? How's life? And we'll talk about, the latest basketball game or football game that feels like we're talking about the NFL. And it's like we're talking about 12-year-olds, or 18-year-olds. You know what I mean? And so I get some of that, and so I just wondered what
Yeah.
that truly was. And so for those that are wondering, it sounds to me like it is fabricated, but there's some truth to what's going on in Yellowstone. Like people from that area don't want the high rises. They don't want their land, taken up by corporate America, so to speak. And so I guess maybe it hits a little too
Yeah.
close to home for some people.
I mean, I think that yes. I mean, the winters out here are brutal, so I think that also keeps people
Yeah.
at bay.
Yeah.
It's we had a day we had like a week last year where it was in it or yeah, it was a week in like January. It was like the low was like -40 one day. It's like
Oh,
what do you do? Like,
yeah.
but then on top of that, I do think that a lot of people, the beauty of Montana is that in the sense that so much of it is untouched land and there is so much just
Yep.
natural beauty here because we haven't built all the highways, the high
Yep.
rises, and there hasn't been this mass expansion. Um, but like anything, it's always nice when you get the new coffee shop,
Sure.
you get the new restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke,
Yeah.
I joke with people like I love it out here because I think I could be a cowboy like 2 days a week. But then the other 5 days, I need like Banana Republic. I need a nice
Right.
steak.
Yeah, but say you don't strike
Like,
me as the cowboy type, but yeah, if you could do that a
no,
couple of days a
I'm
week,
not cut out.
just a part-time cowboy.
I'm, well, I'll do. I'm a great, like, higher, like, hourly cowboy, man. But like all the time, absolutely not, man.
Yeah, no,
No
I
way.
get it.
I still need that nice steak, man. But yeah, it's a small town. It's like you said. I mean, I haven't. I mean, Regan is hilarious because like she is like I mean, born and raised here, comes
Yeah.
back, has two companies here. Her and her husband own a business. They own a bunch of land and apartment built. It's like, I mean, she's the same way. All of her friends that she went to school with are back here with kids, so she knows everybody. Plus
Yeah.
the business community. It's just it is totally like what you just said, and so it is kind of that mayor type. I
Yeah.
mean, I joke with her. I'm like, when are you running? Like, she might
Sure.
run next year. I don't know. Like,
She's a hoot, man. She is
dude, she's
absolutely
so great.
hilarious.
Yeah,
And just
yeah,
she's always been a breath of fresh air for me. I think it's hilarious. And so anyhow, I had to get that out because it's just something that's been on my brain about the whole Yellowstone thing. But so
no
let's get
doubt.
real. Let's talk for a minute because it's been a minute since we've actually been able to catch
Yeah,
up personally and on the show. Catch us up. For those that may not know you or didn't listen to other episodes in the past or don't really know who you are, like let's just like who is Brenden Corr? Like, what have you been up to? For what brought you to where you are
yeah,
now? What are you doing now? Just whatever you feel like talking about. Let's just dive into you for a few minutes.
I love it, man. Yeah. So, anybody who doesn't know me, let's see. So, I'm a Seattle kid, born and raised, was out there for 35 years, moved to Montana almost 5 years ago now, I think, ish, something like that. And that was to work for Regan, who is the owner, founder of Lost Run Pro, who I would imagine many of you listening have used or heard about, or maybe not. And if not, it's a great program. But I worked there for almost 4 years. And in kind of early December, we kind of parted ways. It just, time was time, and it was I needed some time to hang with family. My brother's a little sick at the moment, and so needed just a little extra time around the holidays, and so kind of just decided that it was time to be done there, and which is great. But again, back to the small town.
Yeah.
Perfect time. Loved my time with her. She gave me an incredible life career over here in Montana. I'm no longer working there, but yet, like tonight, I get to go and watch her kids play flag football. Which
Yeah.
not outside because it's like 5 degrees, but like
Right.
inside, and we still have a great friendship, which is wonderful. And but I loved what I did. I was there from the very beginning. I think when I started, we had like 50 pilot accounts, and when I left, we had almost 6,000 total users.
That's
So just
amazing.
incredible growth and
Yeah.
a really, really cool product. I mean, Heath, you'll love this. When I first started, I called it Run
Yeah.
Loss Pro for the first like 45 days. And she was like, listen, idiot, like get it right. Or, I
Yeah.
couldn't even name right. So,
That's
um,
hilarious.
and then let's see. Since then, I spent all of December, my first time in 15-ish years that really ever not having a job. So I took
Yeah.
December. I didn't do anything. I spent it with family, the holidays. I'm kind of in the midst of a bunch of interviews at the moment for my next opportunity. But then what I've also been able to focus on, and kind of one of the main topics that we're going to talk about today, is Project 55. And that is what Justin Goodman and I started, which is kind of around mental health in the workplace, and how we talk about it, how we engage with our leadership, or how leaders can engage with their employees, and is there training in place? And so that has been a very fun kind of side passion project that um, is really, really cool. And it feels very great to be a part of something that can make a difference on the ground floor.
Yeah. This topic is very, near and dear to my heart. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you and my audience here, because, I think about this from the lens of, my age, and being a Gen Xer, and coming up the way I did, of like, I grew up with a dad who's like, rub some dirt on it, or like, brushed it off, like whatever, like it kind of not brushed mental health under the rug, but kind of like, boys don't cry, or you don't deal with this, or, whatever it might be. And you just kind of brush it under the rug, so to speak. And I feel like my entire generation might be that way. And those that are listening will resonate and probably shake their head as they're driving or listening to this on their treadmill or whatever. It's like, yeah. But the good thing about this generation coming up, and I have kids I'm raising, they're in this generation, even the next generation, Gen Alpha or whatever it is now, like they've brought, they've highlighted this and brought some good light to this, to think, this is a real issue. And this is something that, even if I think back throughout my entire career, I'm 45 years old now, and I'm not afraid to say that, but to think back, there's some times in there that I probably was battling with some mental health issues that I didn't know how to identify that. I didn't know what to do. And I had in my head of like, you just rub some dirt on it, so to speak, or you just, deal with it. It's just part of life. It's part of being this or part of that, and you don't talk about it. But I'm so glad we're at a place. I say all that to say I'm glad now we're at a place that we can talk about it. And thinking back, I wish I would have had some of these opportunities to talk about this when I was younger, or when I was coming up, because I think I would have been able to navigate my career a little bit differently. Does that make sense? Like, I come full circle on that, but I do have these
Yeah.
thoughts in my head, and I struggled with it. But, I'm embracing that more and more now, especially working for a large corporation that highlights this and is very strong in that and enables people to be able to talk
Yeah.
about these things. So, not really a question there, but I just wanted to start the conversation by being
Totally.
completely upfront and honest.
Yeah, dude, I don't think you're alone. I mean, I'm 40, I'm 41 in a few weeks. My dad was the same. It's like you got the garden hose. Spray the blood
Yeah.
off the sidewalk. Here's a band-aid. Call it good, right? Like,
Yes.
figure it out. And like, there's also a time, like, there's a time and a place for that too, right? Like, that isn't all that bad. But then there's also a time and a place to say, hey, you're struggling. Let's address that, right? Maybe
Yep.
there is something deeper. I don't think that just because we talk about mental health, that if you fall off your bike, we need to take you to a therapist, right? Like
Right.
there is some in between, but like it is refreshing to have these conversations. And
Sure.
I think there's a lot of people out there like you, Heath, who have probably brushed a lot of feelings and emotions, especially professionally, aside and under the
Yep.
rug because I'm Heath. I should, I can't let people know, or, and like, again, I don't think that times change and opportunities change, but it is refreshing to be able to say, hey, I need a little bit of time, or hey, Heath, I noticed that you've been showing up an hour late every day, or you were late to these meetings. Is everything okay? Like, how as leaders can we be aware of our employees,
100%.
or vice
Yeah.
versa? Like, so, you know, it's a mix, right? Because we also don't want it
100%.
swinging way over to one side, but there is space to have empathy and compassion and kindness in the workplace.
Sure. And, I think about whether it's agencies I consult with or it's, working, alongside people at Vertifor and being a part of a large corporation like that and having that life, I see these opportunities now and I see where people will say, my manager came to me and was like, hey, you might need to take a little bit of time, and it's not like a punishment. It's just like, hey, we're giving you a little bit of time here. Or, hey, we understand that your father just passed away. If you need to take a couple of weeks, take that time. Where I feel like maybe in the past, it would have been like, all right, you got 2 days bereavement, time to come back and get to work. But it's nice to be able to say, you know what? There's a lot of loose ends I need to tie up, or I'm still struggling with this, or I'm battling with the fact that I just lost my father or my wife or my this or my that, or, maybe I had a bad, season in my life and I need some time. I don't know what it might be, but it's just, those examples in your head that you're thinking through right now, but to be able to have that opportunity to have someone to be compassionate about it and be open about it and say, hey, I get it. I hear you. And I just think that's really refreshing. And the first time that
Yeah.
I had that come up in my own life, I was like, no, I'm good, and I was like, wait a minute, am I good? I was, I'll be
Mhm.
real honest, I was struggling when I first started working with Vertifor, because working for a large corporation, it's a little different than working for yourself or doing other things. So I was like, man, and I didn't realize it, but I was kind of getting overwhelmed. And I was like, man, I got a lot of balls in the air, a lot of juggling, and I got behind on some tasks. And I remember someone coming to me and saying, bro, you good? I'm like, why don't I help you and I'll take some things off your plate? And at first, like, what? This is my stuff. Don't be coming taking my stuff. I got this. I'm gonna get in trouble. And I was like, you know what? They're just trying to help. And I was like, yeah, if you got the capacity to take these 3 projects off my plate, go for it. And I was like, man, maybe I was struggling. And I remember, having a conversation. It was like, hey, we have these programs. If you need to talk to somebody or if you need to take these steps to help out, and I was like, psh. And I remember my first thought, I'll be honest, audience listening, don't judge me, but I remember thinking, I don't need help. I'm not going to talk to somebody about this. I'm good. But I thought in the back of my mind, maybe I should. Maybe I do need to have a conversation of like, why am I so far behind? Why am I feeling overwhelmed? Why am I having these feelings? And like, it was just a thing to make me even pause and think about. I was like, this is good for me to think through. And maybe I am at a place where I need to take a day or two and just get some stuff organized in my head and think through some things and maybe take some time to spend a day with my wife and kids and just be like, okay, I need a minute. You know what I mean?
Dude, I got goosebumps, man. I love that shit, dude. Like
Yeah.
honestly, like that's what it's all about, man. Like how lucky that you work for a company that enables the leadership, or whoever that was, to
Yeah.
recognize that, to say, hey, time out. Heath, what's up, man? Like, hey, let's talk about this. And you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, like, because it's so off-putting, because so many people are like, oh, I can do it, I can power through it, I don't need help,
Exactly.
it's no big deal, I'm gonna figure it out, KPIs, deliverables, this, that. And it's like, oh, hey, let me help. Do you want to, it's a change? And you're like, wait a minute, this is actually very refreshing. I do need some, I'm going to take a quick
Yeah,
step back. It doesn't mean I'm failing, but it means
right.
that I'm also not showing up
Yeah,
in the way I should be. Someone else is noticing it. And wow, they have the ability to say, hey, Heath, let me help you. And also, do you need an extra day off or whatever it might be? But the
sure,
ability to recognize that,
dude.
so powerful.
It's so powerful. And again, I'll be honest, I thought at first, again, it was refreshing, but at first it was like, whoa, are you trying to say I'm weak? I can't handle it. I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, no, they're just trying to say
Right.
we recognize you, we respect you. And the fact someone's like, hey, I got capacity. I got an extra hour or two in my day. Let me take these projects off your plate. And instead of being so guarded, like that's mine, don't take my project. I was like, yeah, I could delegate those 3 or 4 tasks and let somebody on my team help me. I'm not saying that I'm weak and I can't handle it. It's just, and because there's going to be a time, and there has been, where I can say, Brenden, I noticed you got some things going. I've got capacity in my own life. Let me take some of those things off your plate. And Brenden says, okay, great. And it's just kind of like a reciprocating deal. And again, it's refreshing. It's not something I was used to and not something I've ever, like, I feel like I came up in a time, and maybe you're the same way, of like, you got to work 60 hours a week or you're weak, or you got to be able to do this, or having that busy as a badge of honor. And it's like, do we really have to be that busy? I mean, what do we miss out? Going back to your point, like, you needed and recognize the time you need to be with your family. You need to be with your brother. You need to
Right.
do that to be able to say, you know what, this is more important. And we were talking off air and we were like, when you see all these things in the news, we're like, what are we working for? What are we doing? Like, life is so much more valuable and more precious than 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. I'm busy. I got this badge of honor. I work all the time. Really?
Yeah. Well, and the other crazy thing is that like in remote digital work, which is
Yeah.
both amazing and for some not, but I think for
Yeah.
most people, a lot, have enjoyed the ability to kind of engage in some sort of remote work at various times. But what it's also done is work bleeds into our personal time and personal lives now. But yet, we are so afraid of bringing our personal lives into our professional lives. You know,
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you kind of rhetorically because I already know you do, but it's like you work 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, and then you do your time with the family and the kids. And then maybe you throw on a show or a football game at night, you open up the laptop and you work, right? Well, what happens on a Wednesday at 10 a.m., and you need the capacity to be able to say, hey, I need a few hours break here. You know what I mean? Like it has to be kind of a give and take
Sure.
because we're expected to do all of this a lot of times in a professional way in our personal lives, but yet for some reason we're not allowed to bring our personal lives into the professional setting. And maybe trying to, it doesn't have to be a perfect balance, but is there
Sure.
space to have some of those other conversations throughout the day?
100%. Yeah. And so that being said, okay, so it's no secret we've been talking about it for 4 or 5 years, at least on my show, and I know in the industry we're in a hard market, and everybody talks about that. And I consult with agencies, and I talk to people in all facets of my life, inside and outside the industry, that it's like my day to day is not near as fun as it used to be. I'm getting chewed out every day by people saying my rates are too high, or I'm getting chewed out because of a claim situation that I can't help it. It's just what's happening, but it's mentally damaging, or it's hard for me to deal with getting yelled at every day, or dealing with price increases, or having the extra work of quoting something 15,000 times to get the right rate, whatever it might be. What do you
Yeah.
say to those account managers that are listening right now? And I ask this, I'd love for you to give me your perspective on this, like, or even your advice on that. What do you say to those people, those CSRs, those account managers, those producers that are dealing, or claims, adjusters that are getting screamed at, that are having those tough conversations? What do you say to those? Because they are dealing with a mental drain that's different than they have in the past.
Yeah. Well, let me back up also, Heath, if you don't mind. And so Project 55 is
Yeah.
so Justin Goodman and I started it last year, and we kind of launched it really in at the beginning or middle of September. But it is so the 55 comes from 55% of US adults who struggle with a mental health kind of illness or issue don't have access to the help they need. Like, that's crazy, right? And that could be,
Wild.
Heath,
Yeah.
you're struggling, right? But you just don't know where to go, you don't know who to talk to, or you can't access a therapist in the right time. So Project 55 is kind of threefold. Is first, you can go to the website project55.org. We have all of our resources available. Everything is free of charge. It has podcasts, books, information on addiction, depression, bipolar, insomnia, eating disorder, right? We PTSD. So we go through all of them, or at least kind of the main kind of issues that most people face, providing the resources. Within the platform, we also have a community because in a lot of times, Heath, we're going to use you still here.
Yeah.
You might be struggling, but you don't want to talk to an employer. You don't want to talk to your leader, but you might want to talk to another account manager. So we also have kind of like a community forum where people can go in, engage, ask questions. Both, you
Yeah.
could sign up as Heath, you could sign up as, HS. It's completely anonymous if you choose to, but that way you are in a safe space where people
Yeah.
are compassionate and understanding, and we can kind of crowdsource ideas, thoughts
Yeah.
about whatever you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And then the third component, those first two are completely done and built out. The third is coming hopefully by the middle of April, if not early
Yeah.
May. But we have hired a guy out of the on the East Coast, and he's already completed and written a what will be a 6 hour training module that we can give to insurance agencies, companies, completely free of charge. We're calling
Yeah.
it the First Responder Training Program, and it will be available to everybody as a way to for new hires, for leadership, executives, to not only teach them about mental health, but then also how to engage, right? So when
Yeah.
someone comes to you, what do you say, right? How do you help with those responses? Our goal here is getting into the companies, the insurance agencies that you work with, because let's be honest, right? 35, 38,000 of them have less than what, 40 employees or something, so they don't have EAP programs. If he has a problem, he's going to the owner or the manager, or and there's not a lot of training in those situations. And so this is designed to help with those initial kind of
100%. That's awesome.
conversations,
Yeah.
the ability to say, we recognize, Heath, you're struggling, how can we help? But then the large grand scheme of where we hope this goes is insurance is the largest distribution network that is available in the US. If we can, this is going to be a completely free of charge program, training course for anybody. So we just happen to be in the insurance space, right? But people struggle in construction, in healthcare, first responders,
Yeah.
lawyers. If we can get this to agencies and agents, Heath, you could take this and review it with your kids and say, hey, here's a cool program. Let's just spend a night, an hour a night, and go through it together. It just teaches conversational skills.
Sure.
It teaches understanding. And so I know that's a long-winded answer, but to get to your kind of question of, that's the root of what we're trying to help is everybody is struggling. So how do we start having some of these conversations in the workforce when people are struggling, right? How do we are we aware of our coworkers who are struggling? How do we identify it? If they are struggling, what are the right questions to ask, without pushing them over the edge, or to
Sure.
say, hey. So that was a lot I gave you, but that's kind of that's the premise of the
No, that's great.
program and organization.
The biggest thing that I heard out of that answer was those that are out there listening right now, account manager, producer, agency owner, wherever you're at in the chain there, you're not alone. If you're in there sitting
Yeah,
there right now, listen to this right now, and you're saying, man, that's me. I'm getting beat up every day on the
yeah,
phone, or I'm struggling with my own mental wellness. I'm struggling with this or that because of either hard market or because of challenges at home or because my brother is sick or because my father is sick or because of
right.
insert, reason here.
Whatever.
You're not alone. And, obviously you've identified, and we knew this, but with Project 55, we're all struggling in our own little way, form, or fashion. If there's someone out there that says, I don't struggle at all, I'd love to meet them, figure out what their secret
Yeah.
is. But I think we're all struggling in some sort of way. It's what connects us, it's what binds us
Yeah.
together as a humanity. But it's just neat to know that, A, you're not alone. The other thing that I heard from that answer was if you've got a CSR that you're talking to that says, Brenden, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. I'm having a problem with this or that. You have resources you can point them to. You've got a
Yeah.
platform, so to speak, you can point them to. You've got a course coming out, 6-hour course you can point them to.
Yep.
And whether they use them or not, that's up to them. But you've got those resources available, and you can train, and they're free for them to use.
Well, and I mean, I'll take it a step further on kind of the account manager side is people are beat
Please.
up. Like life is hard, man.
Yep.
And if you are struggling,
Yeah.
this isn't an excuse to also not show up and not do your job, right? You do have a
Yeah.
responsibility to do your job, to
Yep.
hit your metrics, your deliverables, but there's also a space where I am having a hard time, right?
Yeah.
Hey, my husband died. I need more than 2 days off. Or
Yep.
hey, Heath, I have this particular customer. Their rates are going up. They're not really happy. If I don't feel comfortable enough to share that with my leader or my manager, I go home, I ruminate on it, I overthink it. I probably don't show up in the right way and interact with my kids because I'm stressed maybe about the conversation I have to have with this customer tomorrow. And so, what we're hoping is that these little tiny changes, right? Instead of holding all of that inside as a CSR and account manager, I can say,
Yeah.
hey, Heath, I'm really struggling with this customer. I don't know how to make them happy, right? Whatever that conversation is. And just by telling the manager or leadership about that, they probably go home completely different. So they show up to their kids different, their
Yeah.
spouse different. But more importantly, they show up different the next morning, ready, feeling empowered for that phone call, right? Because they
Yep.
have felt, in most cases, supported, understood.
Yep.
The result might still be the same, but man, what a powerful time where they can feel engaged with the manager or leadership to say, hey, it's okay. You're doing great. I listened to your call. You did everything you could. People are going to be unhappy. Hey, why don't we do this one tomorrow together? Or I'm happy to take it and have you sit in, right? All it's engaging in those conversations and
Yeah.
maybe trying to help nip it in the bud because these trickle down effects affect us outside of work.
Yep.
And then we don't work out or we eat terrible food. When we don't
Yeah.
sleep well, then I show up grumpy the next morning. I show up with anxiety and stress and on, man. And all these first responders, right? We've had these fires. We had the plane crash last night. Who's supporting those people, right? All
So true.
even in the insurance space, these people go out and they look at all these damaged homes, and they're dealing with people who have lost everything, and then they get berated perhaps on site. Okay, well, how do we support them? Well, then the people also, they have to then call into the claims associates, right? Well, they're
Yep.
getting berated every day. So there's just so many different ways that within the insurance space we felt like a program like this could be super, super impactful and really make a difference.
100%. And a couple of things from that, even if, you know, throughout my career, I've had the opportunity, whether it's, as a agency owner, as a coworker, or even as a consultant, to talk to people and work through some of this with them. And a lot of times it comes down to, having those conversations. And I've heard a lot of, people that might be like, and I won't call any specifics out, but a account manager or producer or staff member might say, my boss just doesn't understand. And then when I talk to boss, it's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to show up in this way because it's foreign to me. I don't know. I haven't had the training. I'm not a counselor or a therapist. I don't know what to do. There's not that I don't care. I love my employees. I want them to show up happy. I want them to be here, but I don't know what to do.
So good.
And so, yeah, again, to have something like this 6-hour program, or to have some of these forums, even like if you could have a forum like for agency owners to be able to say, hey, I've got an employee that's having this struggle. How did you handle this? And, some of the biggest things that I go back to, and it's fundamental, and it sounds like it's so elementary, but it's so true, is like, just shut up and listen so many times. I don't know how many times I've had that conversation, even if it's agency manager saying, or agency or account manager, I'm saying, my client's calling me bitching and moaning about rates going up. Dude, a lot of times just sit there and listen, let them vent a little bit. And then by the end of the conversation, they'll probably apologize and be like, hey, dude, I'm so sorry I went off on you. I know it's not your fault. I know you're just doing your job. But as soon as you show up defensive, like, bro, I didn't do that. It's not my fault. Be mad at the carrier or be mad at this or whatever. That's when things are escalating, going the wrong direction. But a lot of times I just shut up and listen. And again, I'm saying a lot in circles too, and ADHD moments there. But I just think what you're talking about is resonating. I know I can feel the audience on the other end resonating with some of this, but I do think, to circle back to what I said a minute ago, I think a lot of times we need to have a little more grace with managers or grace with owners or grace with some of these people because they don't know how to handle it either.
100%. I think every piece you just mentioned is incredibly accurate. And, I talked to a bunch of high school, I talk about my sobriety journey to some high school kids. And, I just talk about how, like, and I even posted about this the other day about like how silence and like listening is like an underutilized skill. It's like a forgotten skill, right? Now,
Yeah.
You and I, we talk for a living, right? So like,
Yeah.
I'm not very good at it, but I might not be like, you might come to me and say, hey, Brenden, I'm struggling. My wife died. Heath, that is so terrible. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what you're going through, but I can only imagine. That sounds terrible. How can I support you? Right? Like, just because you maybe don't understand doesn't mean you can't listen and empathize. But as a manager, as a leader, as an owner, it's also, we shouldn't expect them to have the answer every single time. Right? But they can say, let me know how I can support you, right?
Yeah.
Just being available is so key. But a lot of managers, they are the stopgap, right? They are, or the owners, because they are the business owners. And so it does fall to them, and they might not have the support. But our goal is to hopefully provide some of that information. But I think also, Emma Roloff talks about this, just about kind of technology. People just kind of want to be heard sometimes. If you're going to change a program, just let me know. Tell me the direction. It's kind of the same thing. You might not understand me, but just let me tell you some of my frustrations, and then let's just have a conversation about it.
100%. And I love this conversation. And, having, circling back again to another thing that you talked about with the first responders or with the claims people or with the people that are right there in the muck seeing this, a lot of times I'll say this to nurses or doctors or certain people. I'm like, I don't know how you do what you do, or like funeral home directors or whatever. Like, I don't know how you deal with what you deal with every day. And, a lot of them be like, oh, I'm just used to it. I see it. But the ones that are truthful, like, man, it really does affect you when you look at, tragedy every day, or you see death, or you see this. it can't help but affect you mentally. And it's like, who do I talk to? Because a lot of times people are naive, or they'll, they make the joke of like, well, you chose your profession, like da da da, and it's a noble profession what they're doing, but the saying that still affects you mentally. A claims person, like those people, like you said, that are right there in the muck and seeing the hurricanes, and they're seeing this noble profession. They love what they do because they're helping people, but at the same time, that's got to affect those people mentally, and it's got to affect those people. And like, man, I just need somebody to talk to and just to hear me out and say,
Yeah.
man, I saw some pretty crazy things today. I saw some tragedy today. I saw people that's homes were blown away, or their arms were blown off, or this was happening, or a fire that caused this damage. I'm kind
Yeah.
of affected. Like
Well,
I'm
and
struggling.
all of those, like, and the crazy part about why we're so excited about the kind of the training program is, look, we don't expect anybody, we're not licensed therapists, and the training
Right.
isn't going to make you a therapist, right?
Right.
But it might get you 60, 70, 80% of the way there to help somebody. Because the crazy part about the other side of this is, you want to go see a therapist, the average wait time is between 3 to 4 months for a therapist right now. Like, that is crazy if you
That's a good
need
stat.
the help. Like, so what do we do if somebody even does want it? Well, so then again, how do we have some of those conversations? I might not have experience with my spouse dying, but hey, Heath, I'm happy to go get a coffee with you. I'd love to bring you some food, take a day off. I'm happy to take some of your work, right? Again, it's just the compassion, the kindness, the empathy that you alluded to at the beginning. And the first responders, it is back to, oh, just rub some dirt on it, right? Oh, we have police officers and firefighters, right, who see tragedy, death,
Yeah.
every single day. But yet, if they raise their hand and say, hey, I need to go see a therapist, they get put on medical leave. Like, that's crazy talk.
Yep.
That's
100%.
wild. We should
It
be
is wild.
encouraging. Like,
Yeah.
if I want my police officers and firefighters, I want them going to see a therapist, man, because then I know that their head is clear when they're showing up, when they go
100%.
home, and then when they show up the
Yep.
next day. And same with adjusters, claim managers, account managers. Just because you're not seeing tragedy every day doesn't mean you're not being affected in your
Right.
workforce by your own experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
So
know we got to wrap it
man,
up, man, but woo.
I know. So good. And I want to keep going, but I understand we gotta wrap this thing up. But one of the things I did want to get into before we wrap up a little bit is, whether you work for an agency or a carrier or wherever you're at in between, if someone out there listening wants to learn more, or wants to get involved with Project 55, or wants to connect with you or Justin, how would
Yeah.
they do that? What would they do? Is there a website? Is there a LinkedIn page? Is there a Facebook
Yep.
page? Is there a group
Yep.
somewhere? Whatever.
All of that. So project55.org website. And then within that, we have all of our resources that you can learn about it, but then you can actually join the community. Again, it's all free. You can join as yourself, anonymously, totally up to you. All of the resources will be in there. And then again, we're working towards the distribution of kind of sometime in April-ish for that training program. I'm active on LinkedIn. We've got a LinkedIn for the Project 55 page. I've connected with so many amazing people, and it's incredible to see how many people like you who, when they heard about this, said, whoa, I got to learn more. How
Yeah.
cool. I don't know if I needed it, but man, I love this mission because these conversations are so important to be having.
Yep.
And so I'm just super, super, super grateful, man. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about it,
Yeah,
because
dude.
without you and shows like this, and it's hard to get people to hear about it, but it's starting these types of conversations so that way somebody feels maybe a little bit more empowered to have that conversation tomorrow or the next day or
Yeah.
whatever that is, if they are struggling, or for somebody to then receive that message.
Yep. And that's, one of the reasons why I wanted to start the conversation intentionally the way I did, to say, maybe you're out there and you were like me, or you are like I was, of like, I grew up different than that. This is new to me. This is something foreign. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to, accept this. You know, I hope this conversation helped, and I hope that you can find that Project 55 can help you. And, the other thing I wanted to say was, obviously you say this is free to people, but is there, do you guys take donations? Are you working from, anything like that? Or is it a fundraising thing? Or you just,
It's
I,
completely self-funded.
wow, that is fantastic. I didn't know if there was a way that
Yeah.
people
Now,
could support in that
mostly
way,
now
but
mostly Justin. So I don't want to take most of the credit because he's mostly funding it. I'm just a small piece, I'm just the talker, I think.
well, that's just so cool. I appreciate you and Justin, doing this. And, I just think
I
it's
think,
imperative that you reach out. If you're
yeah,
listening to this right now and you're resonating with anything said here, I would say reach out to either Justin or Brenden, or, talk to someone higher up and have them call, whatever it might be.
yeah. Yeah, I think at some point, like probably in this next year, what we will do is we will start maybe going and partnering with Vertifor, Travelers,
Yeah.
kind of, because I think this program can be on a larger scale.
Yeah.
But it was very important to both Justin and I that this was the money changes things very quickly. And so the core of this mission had to be at the baseline of just
Yeah.
free help. And
Yeah.
then if we end up kind of getting sponsorships or in kind of donations or whatever, but
Yeah.
like there was no fundraising because that changes the mission instantly. And we really didn't want that to be the case. Not that we don't like money, but like for something like this, the impact it can have when it's free is so incredible. And so that's the goal. And we hope we can partner with all of these groups later on, right? Because we do want them to advocate for their employees, to offer it to them. That's why we're doing it.
100%, man. And I love that. And so, again, dude, thank you so much. It was so good to catch up with you, hear your heart for this. And I hope it's not another year or two before we catch up again. So I just appreciate you. And I know off air we talked about this, but it's just good to be able to find someone that you could just pick up right where you left off, and just
Yeah,
someone that I
man.
care about deeply. And I just, dude, it just makes me happy to see you in a good spot. So thank you, man. And I appreciate you joining us again.
And you as well, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, man.
All right, brother.